Well, welcome back, folks. It's good to see you all again, and I hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. This trip up, I'm going to put in the foundation of the new cabin and the floor system and get it ready so I can dry it in. Our first few trips up here was mostly egress and clearing so we could have room to work and get into the place without tearing up our vehicle. And last trip up, I finally got a chance to take a real good look at everything other than just, a quick look and say, well, yeah, I can do this, I can do that. And after I did that, I determined it would be more cost effective, safer, and quicker just to build another cabin. This cabin here that's existing, it's good enough to use as a tool shed to keep a few supplies in. So that's what we're going to do with that. And then when I'm done building this other cabin, we're going to tear that down. So in this area where the trailer and the truck is sitting, from there back this way about 16 feet is where we're going to be setting in the new cabin. Now that the truck and trailer is out of the way and I have the grass cut, you can see this area right out in here. It's all a little bit higher. It slopes off over in this area. I want to build the cabin up in this area facing the driveway over there. There are many different acceptable ways to build a foundation system for a building. Depending on the size of the building, where it's being built, the area you're in, they can change. In this part of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan where my cabin is, there's a lot of sand. And there are many ways that you can put a foundation in for a cabin in sandy areas. This past winter, I was doing a lot of research on different types of foundations, and I come across something I really liked a lot. It's used up in Canada quite a bit. Other places in the US use them, and they're called helical piles. There's actually a couple of different styles of these. One of them looks like a huge wood screw, 3.5, 4, 5 foot long. It's put in with a machine, and it's just an auger. Sets on this thing and it screws it into the ground to its desired depth, and they'll screw these in down a row, 2 or 3 or 4 rows, however many they need, and then they'll set either risers on them and set a beam on top of the risers. If the ground's perfectly level, they can set the beams right on there. On ground like I have, it's not level. I would set up a laser level, would give me measurements. I could cut them all off to the right length and then set some beams on it and then build my floor system on top of those beams. And these are put in the same way. You put them in a grid pattern according to the manufacturer's directions. On load-bearing walls, they say every 4 feet. On non-load-bearing walls, they say you can go every 8 feet. This is what that pile looks like. This is the end that twists into the ground. This is the end that your 4x6 beam will set on. And this has got an adjustment nut, so if it ever does go out of level, you can adjust these up or down. And everything I've read about them, everything I've seen, looks pretty good. These are hollow. Actually, it's got a little sand in it because I stuck it in the ground just a minute ago. The idea of them being hollow is when you build your grid system, you take a piece of 1/2 inch rebar, 4 foot long, and you pound it in the ground. You'll have a little bit sticking out. The center of that goes over that, and you take a 2x4 and you put it on this and then just start spinning. You just walk around and it drives it into the ground. I've watched several videos on YouTube of different people using these, and it seems like it'll do the job that I need it to do. So this is what I'm going to use. What I like about them, these are the 50 inch. The area up here I live in, the frost line can get down 42, 48 inches. These will go below that, and if I need to go further, I can put an extension on top of these, but I don't think I'll have to. And then I can set my risers on top of this, set my beams on it, build my floor system on the beams. I want to remove these 2 tall maple trees. I want to get these 2 trees out of the way before I build the cabin. This first tree right here, it's got a lean to it in that direction, so I'm going to try and place it kind of in the middle of the driveway, closer to this tree. It's been a while since I've done something like that, but I think I can do it. I might as well fell them now, get them cut up into firewood. They'll be out of the way. After re-inspecting the second tree, it appears the way it's leaning and with the heavy branches on the one side, it would fall through the front of the existing cabin. So I'll wait till I take the cabin down before I cut that tree down. Well, it's not exactly where I thought I was going to put it. I wanted to go the other side of this little tree here. But hey, it's right there next to the wood pile. Then the idea is to put this over the center of that piece of rebar. You may have to give it a tap or two to get started, but once you're started, check it for level, make sure it's straight. Getting these started is probably the most critical part, and you want to keep this level as you go down. And you use a short 2x4 like this to do that until it starts getting too tight, and then you go to a bigger one. I got one here, it's about 3 feet. And just keep taking it down, making sure it's inside the bubble. Once it gets tight, you can put your 8-foot 2x4 on there and walk it around like a mule. What they don't tell you in the instructions, even with that 4-foot guide rod that's pounded straight into the ground, these don't always go in straight. They will follow the guide rod, but that guide rod is a 1/2 inch piece of rebar, and that's 1 1/8 inside there. So you can be out of level, out of plumb when you run this all the way down if you're just trusting only in that guide rod. I found out that on almost every one of these things, I have to use a couple of come-alongs and some chain, and once I get this into the ground, I have to hold it at a couple of points to keep it steady while I screw it all the way in if I want to keep it plumb. You can look at this one here. That's the first one I put in. That was following a guide rod, and that's way out of plumb. So I've got to pull that one back out, set it up using these 2 chain come-alongs, and put it back in. I have 2 of them like that, and they're the very first 2 I put in. It's this one here and the one right over here beside it, right here. So both these have to come out. I'm going to put these back in using the come-alongs and the chain. I know they don't look plumb, but they are. The 4x4 risers will all be cut at a different height because of the grade on the ground. Finally, I got 35 of those helical piles in the ground. Next, I'm going to put 4 steel stakes, 1 in each corner. Then I'll shoot it with a laser so I can get it level, and that way I can cut the 4x4s that go on top of those. In sandy soils, each one of these things are supposed to be able to hold 5,000 pounds. With 35 of them in this grid, that will be more than enough strength. It's actually overkill. I pounded some stakes in all 4 corners so I could take my laser and shoot a grade mark on there so I knew how tall to cut these posts. The problem is, it's really hard to read the laser line in this real bright sunshine. So I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I know a lot of you like to see things done the old-fashioned way, so I'm going to do that. I have this stuff here to do it with, and it does just as good a job as any laser out there. Over in that corner, I have a stake with a string line on it. It is level all the way over to this corner. That corner's my highest elevation, so it will have the shortest post. So I'm going to cut a piece of 4x4 post 1 foot long to go on that. And then each one of these other ones down here will have one cut according to its height. I made myself a list of cuts for the first row of 4x4s. These 4x4s I'm using are Southern Yellow Pine, critical structure, the ground contact, moist areas, and they'll be good for underneath this cabin. I'm leveling the outside four corners first. I've got a torpedo level on both sides of this uprights. I've got it level, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten the through bolt and then finish putting the screws in the Simpson strong tie on top of it. Once I have the two outside beams straight and level, I can pull them corner to corner to make sure it's square, and then I'll go ahead and do the beams on the inside and get those all level to the outside too. It'll be ready to put a floor on it. We got a little bit of movement here, so we're going to tighten this one up just a little bit. There we go. Go ahead and check it for plumb. Tighten it up just a little more. Just till it starts to get tight. Check it again. There we go. This floor is going to be cantilevered over each edge about a foot. Now on this side that's cantilevered, it's hanging off the end, and you're wondering how hard it's going to be to get this rim joist connected to the other floor joist with nobody to help you. Well, here's the way I do it. I put a 2x4 in both ends of this so I can set this rim joist on. Just turn it up like that. What I'll do is I'll connect both these ends and then pull that 2x4 out of there. And then this will set level and I can connect the rest of them right on down the line. If you got a board that's a little on the warp side, pipe wrench can be your best friend. Just stick it up there, pull that thing into position. Now we can just pull out this 2x4 and this 2x4, and now all the rest of these are ready to put in. Center of this is 6 foot. You can see here I've got the furring strips in that'll hold the insulation up against the plywood. Oh, now you can hear me. Well, I'm back out here this morning putting the insulation inside the floor system. You may ask why I'm not using fiberglass batting. Well, I got a couple of reasons for that. The first one being, me and fiberglass batting have a love-hate relationship. It loves to make me itch, and therefore, I hate it. But the real reason is, every bay in between the 2x4s that actually had insulation in them, there was mice nest and mice feces all through it. You can still smell it in there. I don't like rodents, and my wife absolutely hates rodents. So I'm going to do everything I can to keep rodents out of this. I do know that the floor in this thing will be mouse proof. There'll be no holes in it that the mice can get through. And as far as the R value and the floor being able to stay warm, that's 2 inches of foam. That'll be fine. I started putting on the 3/4 inch treated plywood floor decking this morning, so I'm going to continue with that. Well, after a couple of weeks of fun, we finally got this part of the cabin build done. We have the foundation, the beam support system, the floor joist, the insulation, and the deck on here. So that pretty much wraps this part of the job up. You know, once I made up my mind that there was just too much stuff going on in that other cabin there, and some of the issues and possibly dangerous situations trying to do what I wanted to do, it wasn't hard to make up my mind to build a new cabin. Well, I hope you found this interesting and informative. And if you enjoy this kind of stuff, I will be posting more videos on this cabin build as I progress with it. If you have any questions or comments about some of the techniques that I'm using, please put them in the comment section. I'd love to answer them for you. I really appreciate you all hanging out with me while I do this project. If this is something you enjoy and you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Check out some of my other videos. You may like those also. I know some of y'all share these with some of your friends. That really does help my channel. That is one of the best things you can do to support this channel, is just share these videos with friends. Thank you all again for watching. Make your life an adventure, and God bless.